Introduce one of my really great heroes. She decided that she was not going to live with the conflicts in her country, and she was tired of looking at the men fighting. So she created an organization or a movement. And some of you have seen the film Pray the Devil Back to Hell. And she actually managed to pray the devil back to hell. So please welcome Leymah Gbowee, Nobel laureate.
Thank you, Ingrid. It's truly an honor to be here today. The Norwegian ambassador to the UN calls me his fellow Norwegian because of my winning the Nobel Peace Prize. So I say, wow, that's a good way of luring me to Norway every time. I'm happy to be here. I'm truly happy to be here to give these brief remarks towards the world we want. Thank you, Ingrid. Thank you, Tonji, Ravi, and everyone at the Partnership for Change. Partnership for Change is an innovative opportunity to reshape the world we live in. The world we live in is filled with many complexities. My theory is that our world is upside down, and it's going to take a lot of innovative actions to turn our world back upright. The challenges are great, but they are achievable. The opportunities are ripe, but they can also spoil. We gather here today to think through how we can overcome some of the obstacles and leverage the opportunities to reshape a world into the ideals many of our nations espouse. We know the kind of world we do not want. Each and everyone in this room knows exactly what they do not want this world to be. Poverty and inequality spreads like cancer. We don't want that. Where girls are denied education just because they were born girls. So let's look at the world that we want, because it gets depressing just thinking about what you do not want. As an activist, I'm often asked, how can one remain optimistic when so many are in despair? How do you do this work? I remember bringing 300 girls to sit with our president, and each and every one stood up, and their stories were stories of pain. Every woman in that room was in tears. Every man in the room hung their heads. And our minister, one of our ministers of security, turned to me and said, Leymah, you are the only dry-eyed person in this room. And I said to her, if I cry, who gave these girls hope? For me to remain optimistic in this world and to look at or to go to the world that I want, I have to engage. And sometimes engaging with the most unlikely people. Yesterday, I came from a funeral. I had cried myself and all of my makeup away and stepped outside, and a whole group of ex-child soldiers were standing by my car, chanting and singing. To change the world, I must engage with them, even though some of those young men are killers of my relatives. To change the world, I must focus on the negative, on the positive, and not on the negative. I cannot go to Congo and listen to the stories of women who have been raped and abused and not find a positive in those stories. So February, I was in DRC, listening to 100 stories. And all of those stories all of the reporters that were with me were only looking at the rape. And when they asked those women questions, it was, so how many times were you raped? But I sat there listening to them one after the other and doing a graph. And by the time I finished, I realized that after every story, there was a fine thread. I was raped, I was abused, I was depressed, and then the women came. I was raped, I was molested, and then the women came. And if you look in the story, when the women came, the story changed from sadness to happiness, from hopelessness to hope, from tragedy to triumph. The women came, focusing not on the negative and the complex, but finding a ray of hope in every terrible story. Women have made tremendous strides, but there's still much way to go. The traditional line works to achieve equality between men and women. The question we must ask ourselves, and we just came from a panel that touched on it a bit, will equality reshape this world when even amongst men there is inequality? Even in the United Nations that was created to bring relief to the world and equality and hope and justice and human rights and everything, there is inequality. 5 nations sit and decide when they will fight and when they will not fight, who will intervene and who will not intervene. I read a very interesting article on BBC after the last General Assembly, and this reporter had done this very good review of the presidents that came. And he said, from the convoy, you could know which countries were the powerful ones and which were the least. Benin came the least because their president car was, a scooter was his escort car. New York police scooter. Whilst everyone came with tons of Secret Service agents, that one African leader had a bicycle in front of his convoy. Many wars are sometimes waged under the guise of fighting against inequality. Does the equal inclusion of women achieve our goal of equality? We must think both broader and with specificity. The world we want is grounded in empathy and respect. The world we want is grounded in empathy and respect. A change of mindset. A change of mindset where African women and Arab women are not seen just as victims by Western media, but also as power brokers in their own setting. The world we want supports innovation, celebrates diversity in mind and body. The world we want protects the least, protects the smallest, protects the one that do not even look like a Nobel Peace Prize winner. The world we want values justice, fairness, and accountability. The world we want, everyone benefits. Whether you're European, American, African, Arab, Asian, the world we want is a world where every child born knows that he or she is unique and have a space in creating their own destiny. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is upon us to create the world we want. Thank you.
fantastic. Thank you.